Okay, so before I tell you how to actually put your fingers and your hand on the keyboard, I'm gonna tell you how to actually put your keyboard on your table, because that makes a lot of difference. Since this is the second part of this video, this is the upgraded version. I'm gonna tell a lot more things than I did in that video. Also, that video was just for FPS games. In this video, I'm gonna talk about fighting games as well, but that's an entirely different stance and the way that your keyboard is supposed to set up, so that will be at the end of the video. Use the timestamps. So as you can see, I have a standing desk setup over here. Why? Because I'm stupid. Okay, so the first principle that you need to keep in mind for an ergonomic adjustment of the keyboard is that your chest needs to be touching the table, or the edge of the table is supposed to be touching just below your chest or your torso or whatever height adjustment that you have. For my standing table, what I do is I put one of my legs on this little rest that I have made, custom made for my height, by the way. Anyways, if you are on a chair, which most of you probably are, just make sure that your desk doesn't have anything like this, so you can move your chair all the way in your table and you're sitting in a way that allows you to sit in sort of this position, which I'll try to show on the camera here, that your chest is supposed to be touching your table like so. What this allows you to do, and the reason why we're actually doing this, is so that not just your hands but your entire arms can rest on the entire table. Now, if you do have a chair with armrests and they kind of get in your way, then it's completely fine and completely viable to make a sitting position in which your elbows can rest on maybe the armchairs and you're still in a very comfortable position. That's good, that's awesome. But this, what I'm about to show you, is hella more optimal and much more comfortable. So what you want to do is start from this area, so just below the base of your palm, all the way down to up until this point. I would say like around this point, just before your pointy area of the elbow. The pointy bone of your elbow is supposed to rest on the table, and I'll show a side view over here that this is the optimal way of both of your arms to rest. So especially if you're Asian and have extremely pointy fingers, like look at this. This is a weapon of mass destruction, okay? I can rupture your face with this thing. This is not supposed God damn. This is not supposed to rest on your table. The reason for that is that it's uncomfortable. Okay, we're making an ergonomic adjustment because you're going to be gaming for hours. You need to be comfortable, right? So this just hangs. So I've set up my desk in a way that allows both of my arms to follow this principle. Like the entire arm rests on the table. Like you can see my right hand over here and the entire arm is resting, but the elbow area is just on the edge of the table and it is not on top of the table. Like it is resting below. It is resting right below it. So the same thing on the left arm. My entire left arm is set up in a way, and if you look at the pro league gamers, you know, the major league gamers, the pro gamers, they never have their especially mostly in FPS games and other games in which you have one hand on the keyboard, they never have their keyboard flat like this. Okay, they always have their keyboard tilted in a way, and this is just way more natural, way more comfortable than keeping it straight, because your entire arm is resting on the table. So it's just natural to tilt your keyboard to make it follow the line of your forearm that's coming when your entire arm is rested. So now you're asking why our arms are resting over here like on the entire table, and this is because when you're gaming for long hours, if you're sitting like this, or standing in my case because I'm an idiot, your shoulders will give up, okay? Your arms will flail for too long and you will get tired and you will not feel good. Just uncomfortable, okay? That's the only way I can put this. So this is the optimal position to put your elbows. So once that keyboard is tilted, now you need to know where your fingers and your palm is supposed to be placed. So once your arms are fully on the table, you need to know that this video is actually for right-handed people because I am right-handed. But if you're left-handed, you can follow through and just, you know, flip the things that I'm telling you to do. You always want your dominant hand on the mouse, okay? This in modern FPS gaming, in shooting games, whatever it is you're playing, you're gonna be pointing pointing and aiming with your mouse, duh, which is looking around and shooting, and you're gonna be moving and doing the movement side of things with your non-dominant left hand. Just as a rule of thumb, aiming needs to be more precise than movement in most games, but you know, that's up for debate. So before we move on to the finger placements and how your fingers are supposed to be on the keys and which finger is supposed to press which key for the most optimal gaming experience, I need to tell you where to place your wrist and where to anchor your wrist in a way that you can reach the entire side of the keyboard. And take the entire with a grain of salt, because in modern FPS gamings, as I've mentioned in my previous video, this side of the keyboard does not exist. You don't want to use the arrow keys and you don't want to individually map all this side of the keyboard. It's just hella uncomfortable. Don't do it, please. You'll lose brain cells if you do that. So your three main fingers, your index finger, middle finger, and your ring finger are always supposed to rest on W, A, and D. This side of the keyboard we call the WASD side, and this is where your main fingers are supposed to rest. So keeping in mind that your hand needs to be on this side of the keyboard, the best placement for your wrist is actually just below the base of your keyboard. So the base of my palm is resting just below the base of my keyboard, and the reason why it's over here as opposed to, you know, all the way over here or all the way down here where I have to stretch my fingers, don't do that, is that this is just the optimal position. And the reason for that is that you don't want straightened out fingers, flat fingers. Don't do that. That puts a lot of tension in your forearm. Let's say, look at my fingers right now. Okay, they are flat out, they are stretched, and what it does to my forearm is that this is so hard right now because the finger muscles are actually in the forearm, so your forearm has to work overtime to support straight fingers. So if I just bend my fingers like that and just relax them a little bit, what does that do? See, now it's soft. If I flatten out my fingers, that's hard, and if I just relax them, it's soft, so the muscles aren't working overtime. So that's what you need to keep in mind. The bend should be only a little bit. Your fingers shouldn't be bending like this, and they also shouldn't be bending like this, like keeping them flat. That's bad. Just a little bit of tilt is fine. So that's why the base of the palm is right below the base of the keyboard. And even though this is a wrist rest, my hand is just too long that I don't have to use the wrist rest. I just rest my palm right below the wrist rest. So this is the optimal position here. So now let's move on to the finger placement. So we will start from left to right and use your pinky finger. It is always supposed to rest on the shift key. In modern day FPS gaming, shooting games, whatever and whatnot, the shift key is usually the sprint key, or in some games it also might be the walking key. So your pinky finger is supposed to press that. It is always supposed to rest on the shift key. So if you place your hand like this, this is where your pinky is supposed to rest. Okay, so use your pinky for the shift. Next is your ring finger, and your ring finger is always supposed to be resting on the A key. Okay, so keep in mind W, A, S, and D, right? So ring finger rests on A key. The middle finger is supposed to always rest on W, index goes to D, and if you have an extremely heavy and sore thumb from all the finger banging that you've been doing to your imaginary girlfriend and you keep accidentally pressing space, then put your thumb just below space. Otherwise, putting it on space is actually way more optimal, and this is how it should go. So let me give you an aerial view, and this is the position that your fingers are supposed to be resting on. Now let's talk about which keys are supposed to be pressed by which fingers. So here I've taken a little aerial shot of my keyboard, and I will highlight all the keys that are usually pressed in modern FPS gamings and what they usually translate to. And here I've kind of color coded the keys on which they are most optimal to be pressed by which finger. I will put this PDF in the description so you can download it and print it and maybe use for your reference if you're a very, very beginner and you need to keep the concepts of this video on hand. Okay, so keep the resting position in mind. Anyways, we'll start from left to right. So as your pinky is always resting on the shift key, it can go down to control. Control is sometimes the prone button, sometimes the walk button, or it could be anything other than that, maybe crouch. Now, pay attention, resting on shift, boom, bap. All right, simple. If it goes up to caps lock, that's fine. I usually just move my hand for that. Now let's talk about the ring finger. Always resting on A, but it can go up to Q, and usually it is the most optimal to press Q with, and sometimes Z. Now sometimes people may find it comfortable to use the Alt key with the ring finger. For me, I just use my thumb for that. It's not comfortable for me to do it with the ring finger, so thumb goes all the way here like so. Next is the middle finger, and single-handedly the most important finger, apart from all the finger banging that you're gonna use it for. And the reason is that it has unlimited reach. It can literally press any key on the keyboard. So let me tell you what keys I use to press it for. Obviously W and S, the main usage of the middle finger, W and S. It goes down to X, sometimes Z if you're comfortable with that. This is just fine. And also, you don't have to keep all your fingers on the resting areas all the time. You're not a guitarist, okay? You're a gamer, it's fine. You can lift them up and then go back to that. That requires a little bit of muscle memory. Just practice and keep these things in mind and you'll get better, I promise. So your middle finger can also stretch and press 2, 3, and even 1, and even other keys on the number row. And now that should give you the perspective to understand why we want a little bend in the finger. We don't want too much. That's just very stressful on the forearm, so don't do that. That's stupidity. Again, we don't want it flat. That's also stupidity. So just a little bit of bend and you have unlimited reach. Right? You can use the middle finger for the number rows, the main 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 are usually the weapon switching. 3 and 4 maybe tactical equipment, maybe kill streaks in Call of Duty. 5 and Siege is for like observational tool. 6 is for throwing drones. So that is just muscle memory. Just keep in mind how much distance your finger has to travel, and then always come back to W. So the initial resting position is like the anchor point that your finger needs to hold on to for dear life, and it can go wherever it wants to, but it always has to kind of come back to the resting areas. X, C, that's a little bit uncomfortable. I just use index for that, but if you want to press C with it, it's completely fine. I also use my middle finger for tab. I don't like to use the ring finger for this. It's just more comfortable for me to use that base of my palm as a sort of an anchor point and just rotate my hand like this on the wrist. It gives me so much reach, it is incredible. Say it's resting on W, just rotate, press tab, go back to W. Press caps lock, go back to W. If the ring finger for you is hard to move for Q, then obviously this is the best way to do it. The middle finger can also do that. So Q and E are the leading mechanic in Rainbow Six Siege. So sometimes you're pressing D and E at the same times. That's why I prefer and I recommend that you make it natural for you to press E and Q with the middle finger, especially if you're a Rainbow Six Siege player. But for Call of Duty and other games, it's not really necessary to do that because Q is usually flashbangs and tactical equipment. You can easily reach that with the ring finger if you've kept a little bend in it, and you can press E with the index, which is the most natural. So that brings us to the index finger. Always resting on D is supposed to go up to E, can go down to C, X sometimes if that's comfortable. Otherwise, middle is fine for that, but I personally find that X is way more easily reachable with the index. And also V. Sometimes V can be the melee button like in older Call of Duty games, but this is the most accessible with V. So you can kind of say that these two columns, the CV, FG, RT, these keys are all in the kingdom of the index finger. So E like for melees or leaning, R is for reload almost always. T may be like chat. So you're pressing T with your index finger as well, and F is usually the use button, so it's very easy to press it with the index. C is for usually crouch, and V could be, I don't know, anything else. G is for grenades. So you just need a little bit of muscle memory that how much your finger needs to travel. So just go there and go back. So just use that base of that wrist and just rotate your arm, press the key that you need to press, and then go back to your resting place. Like I said, using that as an anchor, very important. And for the thumb, spacebar and alt, that's it. I don't really use any other keys with the spacebar. I find that it's just not practical. So the two principles I've talked in the previous video when I said criterias, I don't even know if that's a word. The two principles that you need to keep in mind for optimal positioning of the keys and what keys to press with what fingers is that number one, The key has to be the closest to the resting position of that finger, and number two, it has to be comfortable and natural. The best example I can give you of this phenomenon is the key E when we're resting on W and D. So you tell me, which finger are you going to use to press E? I mean, it is equal distance from two fingers, so unless I am using a quick leaning mechanic where I have to press the two keys at the same time, like in Rainbow Six Siege, I'm almost always gonna press E with my index finger because that's just more comfortable, it's just more natural. And again, these two principles are not set in stone, these are not like carved out of marble. It is fine if you change them, it is fine if you use them in your own way. They're just there for inspiration. Okay, so let's quickly do this for fighting games. Just forget everything that I taught you, like literally forget everything, and don't tilt your keyboard. Don't place your arms on the table like this. It's just different, okay? Because you're gonna have two hands instead of just one on the keyboard. So I'm just gonna straighten it out and gonna move it to the edge of my table, right? And I'm just gonna place my hands like this. I'm doing the arrow keys and A, S, Z, X as my main 4 buttons, because you know, fighting games it's like 4 buttons. A and S are punches, Z and X are the legs. If you want me to do a button guide for Tekken for PC, just let me know. I'll do it the way I do it. I'm no pro, I'm not really that good at Tekken, but if you want me to do it for 2 players, then I will absolutely do it. Just let me know in the comments down below. For player 1, I have arrow keys, A, S, Z, X as the main keys, and for player 2, I have the number pad keys and M, comma, and JK. Fighting games are pretty flexible. If you have IRL friends, they want to play with you on the same computer, then you can obviously set up 2 keyboards. You don't really have to do any settings. Just plug in the second keyboard and just move it, make space for the other one right here, and then you can play on separate keyboards with separate keys. Like one person can press these and the other can press these. It's just really up to you. Again, this video is very long already, so I just want to get it finished. For fighting games, you want your body loose and you want to rest your wrist on the edge of your table. So like this, or all the way on the edge like that is fine. Right now my palm is getting crossed by my table, so this is the line that this is the line that my table is kind of crossing right now, like this. Flail your shoulders, keep them loose, keep your chest up, and there you go. That's how you do fighting games. So growing up as a gamer, I didn't really think much about the things discussed in these videos as that was just second nature to me. I didn't really pay much attention to it. It's just that once I made the first video I did on this topic and it started getting a lot of traction, like 7,000 views. And my channel has gotten what, like 300-400 maximum views on a video, and that was like on the Lynch Mob song. I mean, come on, that's the most entertaining video in the world. But it just didn't really occur to me that this knowledge isn't articulated almost anywhere on the internet, and it's not even the views that give it away. It's the comments that I got on the video, where people are like, wow, this is amazing, these are the things that I was asking but didn't find anywhere, and that was a revelation to me. But that was a little time ago, and I thought it's time for an upgrade, because I think it was about time for a proper guide like this one. So here it is. So I did touch on a little bit with the mouse in this video, but again, I wanted to keep it strictly on topic, so that's why it was just the keyboard. If you do, however, want me to make a video on the mouse, just let me know in the comments down below. I gotta tell you though, I'm not a good aimer, and I don't have the best aim in the world. I don't even have mediocre, I have like below average aim, but still, I'm pretty sure I can cook something up with the mouse as well. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope this was helpful for you, and if it was, do give it a share around and leave a like, leave a comment. And for the first time in history, I've never really said it before on my channel ever in any video. You can go ahead and scour through, you will not find it, but I'm saying it here now because I think I have something. So I will say it starting here in this video for the first time. Subscribe.